Okay. Good afternoon. Mike, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Good deal. Okay, I assume everybody else can too. We are recording. Alexa just emailed me and asked to resend the link, so I got Connie doing that now. And then we'll get started there.
Yeah, I just sent it to her as well, so she ought to be getting bombarded with them.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, good deal. No, I'm glad that you pointed that out. Like I said, it hides the link when you put it in, so I'm going to put it in two places from now on.
Man, that public notice website is something else, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's getting easier, but it's still got its quirks. There's no doubt about that.
So we'll give Alexa a few to get on and started.
Yeah, sounds great. Now, whenever she gets in there, we can get going, Mike, and do the agenda that we have there, obviously.
Yes, sir. And
Okay. No, sounds great, Mike.
okay, it's Wednesday, 9/13/2023 at 12 p.m. and I would like to bring the Tickaboo Utility Improvement District regularly scheduled meeting to order. Do a roll call of members real quick. Amy Golden.
Present.
And I, Mike Morlang, are present. Alexa is trying to get on the meeting now. Next, we'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
And I will second. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none. Vote Amy Golden.
Aye.
And I, Mike Morlang, vote to approve the agenda. Next is the adoption of minutes that need approved from 8/16/23. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
I motion to approve the minutes from August 16th, 2023.
Very good. And I will second. Any discussion on the minutes from August 16th/2023? Hearing none, vote Amy.
Aye.
And I, Mike Morlang, also vote to approve the minutes of 8/16/2023. Next is review procedures for handling an electronic meeting. Pursuant to House Bill 5002 and the Open Public Meetings Act amendments, we are having this meeting via Zoom. Next is item 6, confirm meeting dates of October 11th at 5:30 and November 8th at noon, December 13th at 5:30 and 6 p.m. if there are any changes to our fees or rate schedules. And also like to remind the public and board of the in-person meeting, public reception and tour UAMPS visit on October 11th, 2023. Yeah, what do you think about those meeting dates, Amy? Does that all look good to you as we discussed?
Those are fine.
Okay. I don't see any issues with those. John, do you have any comment on those meeting dates?
No, they all look good to me, Mike. We just have to, as we proceed down the agenda, discuss any kind of hearing for the amending the 23 budget from the way I interpret the auditor wants us to do. And in regards to the UAMPS, yeah, certainly would love the public to come out and meet with those guys. We're trying to help them help us, with present and future needs. So certainly welcome everybody to come out and meet with those guys and, talk with us too.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I've got it marked on my calendar. I'm going to be able to make it on the 11th, so I'll be down there.
Good deal.
Both meetings as well. Anything else we need to discuss on that? I'm not sure if we need to approve these right now or if we can wait until after we find out if we need to do a public hearing for that December 13th. And maybe these were approved in a previous meeting. I do not recall. Do you recall, John or Amy?
They were.
They were. Okay, so we're good there.
Yeah, I agree. They were.
Okay, so that was basically just a review. We will move on to item 7, update on TUID mobile home rental options, costs, fees, and scenarios by Mr. Golden. The floor is yours.
He has to let me join.
Mike, you're gonna have to let Ray join again.
Yeah, he just popped
Please.
up. I just there he is. Ray, you're muted. You just got to unmute yourself.
Unmute Ray.
Oh, okay now.
Yeah,
Yep,
we're here.
Sorry about that. We're up at Fish Lake and I stepped out further away from the generator than I should have. Yeah, so I sent you on September 4th, I had sent the board the answers to the questions that Alexa had posed. Do you want me to go over those one by one, or has everybody read it? You just want to ask any questions? Of course, all of those answers that I had for her questions were based just knowledge of what's going on in Tickaboo for the real estate that we're involved in and that we understand. There's obviously other options, but would you all like for me to go over it line item?
Sure, if you don't mind, Ray, I think that'd be great just to have it in the public meeting as well.
Okay. So the first one, Alexa had asked, where can we list the trailer for rent? Well, obviously, most everything in the western area or the whole state of Utah, but the part of the West that we live in, KSL is a big place for advertisements like that, long-term rentals and short-term rentals. They seem to get a lot of viewership there. But you have to ask yourself, why would somebody be coming to Tickaboo long-term? And the question for that, the answer to that would be probably for some type of employment opportunity. So there's only really 2 or 3 or 4 possibilities there: Garfield County, Aramark, Bullfrog, NPS, the mines, or North Lake Powell. So it might make more sense to not advertise, but to go straight to those employers and ask them or tell them that we have housing available if any of their employees or the company are interested in pursuing that. Short-term rentals are a different thing. You could list it in KSL or Wayne County Garfield Insider for short-term rentals, but that's not really likely a place to find short-term rentals. And I don't know that the board is looking to do short-term rentals on the property, but for long-term, that was our opinion, that if we're gonna look at trying to rent it long-term, we probably just need to go to employers directly and just let them know that we have the listing. Second question, at what rent, and does it include utilities or separate payment security deposit? Well, North Lake Powell we charge $800 a month for a home the size of the trailer on those 2 lots. The renter also pays the utilities and a security deposit. Of course, that's negotiable depending on what you're looking to try to do. Do we need to clean it up? Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's fine, but it does need a clean. I mean, there hasn't been anybody in it for 9 months, so it would need a cleaning before we tried to rent it. Is North Lake Powell going to manage the property if we find a renter, and what are the management fees? North Lake Powell's has no problem entering into an agreement like that. Long-term rentals, typically, we've never really rented a long-term rental that wasn't ours. But in checking around with places in Moab, their typical charges first month rent plus 10% of the annual rent, and then again the owner of the property pays for any items that need repaired. If you want to go short term, that's a little bit different because you're changing that property over quite often, so your housekeeping becomes involved and maintenance becomes more involved. So VRBO, for an example, VRBO charges up to 50%. So number 5, where can we list a trailer for moving off the lots or listed for sale? Again, I would go with KSL or Garfield, Wayne and Cider, or let the businesses know that it's for sale so that they can possibly put in an RFP or a proposal to purchase it for their staff. And at what price? We looked at that through Connie pulled up several reports. I think the one that we went off of, which was the highest one, was JD Power, correct, Connie? It's JD Power that we went off of. Yeah, and I think they listed it, or they valued it somewhere between 24 and 30. That was with a lot of amenities that don't actually exist in that place, so you're probably looking more along the lines of 20. But I think you'd still have to go through the RFP process to find a high bidder. And then, of course, what does it cost to move it if somebody wants it moved? I'm not quite sure. And John, you've moved a lot of stuff around like that before, but I do know that it was about a $5,000 fee to move our tiny homes from Salt Lake City down to Tickaboo. Of course, we bought a truck and did it ourselves, but that's what we were finding when we were trying to outsource it before we moved it. And that was like for a 22,000 pound tiny home. So for a trailer that size, if it's somebody that actually buys it within the village and just wants it moved around, we could probably do it. We'd have to check. John, you would know better than that. If our trailers are capable of doing that, we could do it for just labor. But if it wants to go outside the village, we would have to try to contract somebody to do that for us, or the buyer would have to. So any questions on any of that stuff that we dived into there a little bit?
No, I'll go ahead. I want to welcome Alexa real quick. She joined the meeting and
Yes,
hasn't.
yes, I have to apologize for the inappropriate location. I'm in a McDonald's, so you might hear some music. I couldn't get it to work on my phone, so here we are. We discussed earlier that we were going to do this on a double track. That we're going to both list it for sale and for rent, and do serious marketing for both. Is that still, I'm asking Amy and Mike, is that still where we want to go with this?
I feel like that's what we should do.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan going forward. The only hiccup I really have is at a value of $20,000. And if TUID ever wanted to replace it, it'd cost well over 100 probably to get another place in there. I don't know that it's really, feasible to even try to sell.
Yeah, if we can find a renter, in terms of financials, that might make more sense. Even if we can get somebody to pay $800 a month, that is a reasonable return on investment even if you think of it as a $50,000 investment. So if there is such a person who would want to do that long term, then I could definitely live with it. I have a somewhat irrational desire to never be reminded of the fact that TUID paid too much for the trailer and that we paid way too much rent for the 1 bedroom. And so my irrational desire is to just get rid of the whole thing, but my rational brain tells me that if we can get $800 a month for it, like that's $8,000 a year, that's a reasonable return on investment. $8,000 a year would be including the management cost. Like 10-month rent for us, 2 months for the manager is kind of what that works out at. So if such a person exists wanting to rent it from us, then I'd be completely happy with that. And I think we should make a good faith effort to do that. If such a person does not turn out to exist, then we just need to sell it for whatever we can get somebody to pay for it.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe table this for, 6 months and aggressively try to rent the property and see what we come up with.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment related to that. I don't know if it's the time of the year or just in general, but we've seen an uptick in interest in properties via calls. People want to know about lots for sale and the utilities, and, renting and buying. But we had a guy yesterday and he mentioned driving through and seeing properties for sale. So we should certainly put a sign in the window or the yard. Seems like a small thing, but this guy reminded me people are driving through and looking. Yeah, but it's interesting that there seems to be an uptick in people that are interested in lots and homes. And somebody mentioned they were looking at the business, the on lake business that Tickaboo Dan ran to, the guy that called yesterday. So there does seem to be an interest, an uptick in interest in general in real estate in the village.
Amy, how would you feel about trying to rent it for 6 months and see if we can get reasonable offers for sale both at the same time?
I agree with you, Alexa. I do have the same rational desire to get that out of our problems, but I think we should try to rent it. I agree with you. That would be the most sensible and financially responsible thing to do. I do like the idea of also putting a for sale sign in the window and just see what we can get.
Can I ask a question about the for sale sign though? So if it does go for sale, it has to go through the RFP process, correct?
Yeah, we can ask for offers and then we can advertise for competing offers the way we did with the other lots.
Okay.
Mike,
well, one more thing I'd like to mention. I wasn't sure about the price, but I'm just letting people know, hey, we'd like to get 50,000 for this mobile home that we have for sale, along with, the other properties listed on the website, I guess. So if we come to a firm price on that, I can let people know for sure.
Yeah, 50,000 may be a touch aggressive. I think we should be a little bit aggressive.
Okay.
But 50,000 might be, and we can probably need to discuss this offline, exactly our marketing strategy.
Right.
Sure.
Mike, do you think that we need an official motion to move forward with this?
We can sure do it. If you want to present a motion, I'd be happy to entertain.
I make a motion that we enter into a dual marketing process that involves offering the trailer for rent and for sale simultaneously for a period of 6 months, and take whatever offer we get that makes the most financial sense.
Yeah, I got a motion. Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Got a motion and a second. Vote, Ms. Golden?
Amy, I think Mike asked us you for your vote.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, a
Yeah.
large truck just went by.
Okay.
Aye.
And Alexa,
Yes, aye.
2 votes. Motion passes. We will hold off for 6 months and see what we can do.
And should we put a for rent sign in the window as well as a for sale sign?
I think so. I think we should just cast the net as wide as we can cast it and see what fish we catch.
Yeah, and the idea of advertising in the park service and different places like that's great too.
The county's trying to step up their law enforcement efforts, and so we might be able to. We've been trying to do that with North Lake Powell for quite some time, and they haven't bitten on it yet, but there might be a chance.
Okay. Very good. Any more discussion on that?
Not for me.
Hearing none, we'll move on to item 8. Review and discuss recommendations for the 2023 budget amendments and agree on a hearing date to discuss and adopt needed 2023 budget amendments. Discuss current budget, review and 24 budget in process with new charts of accounting and more compact version in accordance with state auditors guidelines and template for special districts. Open for discussion. Mr. Motley?
Yes, from what I've found out, we are obligated to amend the 23 budget. I know, Alexa, you had alluded to that and asked that we do that. It looks like it's by law that you need to change your budget when you realize you're going to be outside of it. And you guys have heard me point out and say this. One of the big ones is fuel. I mean, we were there in June for the entire year. And I look back, it was perplexing. I'm working on documents that put 4 years worth of budget side by side so the eye and brain can look at them in line and look at trends, which is interesting. 22 showed they had expended 87 last year, but that looks like a mistake. As we went back and looked at bills that weren't input, it was actually closer, almost identical to June of this year, around 157. So we really haven't. Yeah, I was trying to place how we had gone up that much because fuel has been high for years. So that explains it. They weren't put in, but the fuel budget is a big one as far as, and the repair and maintenance costs on the generators too is another big one, and then legal fees as well, off the top of my head. But we do need to amend those. I mean, technically, we have until the end of the year when 23 budget is expended and done, but the sooner we can amend that, we pretty well know where we're headed at this point. And it is September. I mean, the end of the year is nearer than it is further away for 23. And for the 24 budget, you guys have heard me say this, simpler is better. In my background, when you had one tax ID number, you generally did line items for that entity. I would love to see us simplify our budget. And again, an example is if we have an audit fee of $15,000 from the auditor, that it's a line item, not 3 and 4 and 5. I think that's better for the public to read. And if you do want to allocate, then you just do a simple equation. If you got 4 sub entities and just divide that 15,000 by 4, I think it's going to be easier. And I also think from what I've seen so far that if we use the state auditor's template, we can do it ourselves. So we'll save the cost of the accountant having to put together a budget. I'm not sure if that was a cost in the past because of where it may be. But if we can, yeah, I would request that we simplify, cut out redundancy. And again, other items are things such as overhead that are redundant and supplies and general supplies and automobile costs that run throughout power, sewer, water, wastewater. It doesn't appear that we're obligated to allocate that way. So, and I'm putting together again that document. I'll get to you guys. I'm almost done. It's just mainly transferring information into one document so you can see them all and identify trends and ask questions and see what we can eliminate and then cut down to one line item too.
So John, do we need to have a public hearing if we're going to amend the budget for 2023?
My understanding is yes, we do.
Yeah.
We do.
And that needs to be noticed for 30 whole days?
It does. Yeah, the amendments do require a notice too, for my I'll triple check that, Alexa, but from what I've read and reread so far, the auditor does require a 30-day notice and hearing at the appropriate time, which is going to be in the evening, to go through with those amendments and so the public knows about them and what we're doing.
When you notice for 30 days, do you have to provide the draft budget like right at the very beginning?
That I haven't checked it. I don't believe you do, but I'll verify that. Too. Yeah, and we could do that because I've got it mostly assembled as far as the amendments that would need to take place. And again, they're going to mostly revolve around the legal fees as related to water rights, and again, fuel and repair costs for the generators are three of the major items that are going to require amendments to meet those requirements for the state.
And the report you're talking about, is that already using a new format for new reporting format that doesn't allocate by line item?
The new one that no, not yet. The one that I'm putting together now and just a few hours from being done with is to review the old one, but it sets out 24 beside it and with notes in it to recommend to reduce down the repetitive line items. Again, such as,
yeah, that makes sense. So 2023, we're going to just keep with the old system because that's how we started. And then for 2024, we'll,
and I'm going to verify that too through the state auditor to make sure, but for all intents and purposes, it looks like, we can use that template they provided. And there's sub accounts in there too, which some of those do line up, but for items that hadn't been budgeted and expended in 3 years that have been zeros, I don't think we're obligated to keep those, in there.
Is it going to be possible to get that on the agenda for the October meeting, given the 30-day notice period? I think we're probably like 36 days away.
Yeah.
Or we should not put that pressure on ourselves and just do the 2024 budget and the 2023 budget amendment all in December.
Yeah, that's possible too. As long as we're allowed to do both at the same time, and it's a public hearing. I assume we could, but I would verify that as well to be sure you can do that amendment and a new budget at the same time. Then that's entirely possible. I mean, it should be a short process for the amendments, for anybody to view. And again, we can post the proposed amendments ahead of time too in the public notice site.
Yeah. Mike, Amy, do you have any strong feelings about getting the amended budget done in October?
I mean, if we could, that would be awesome. But like you said, why put extra pressure on us to do it so quickly if we're able to do it in December?
I agree with that, Amy. think
Yeah.
that's.
Yeah, I think for the amendments, I mean, you're probably literally talking an additional 10 or 15 minutes for the amendments for, you know,
Yeah.
because they're pretty specific. And, you know, we've, so,
Yeah, in the meantime, you'll have time to go over them and make sure that we really understand what we're gonna be discussing and approving in the December meeting.
yeah, correct. And
Yeah.
get that out to the public and obviously you guys as the board too, to review in the meantime.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention too, John, and maybe you've reached out to him already, but Utah Association of Special Districts. The contact there is LeGrand Bitter, and I can give you his contact info. He
Gotcha.
can answer all those questions on what you can compact and what you can't, what's gotta be line item. Probably give you some guidance on whether we can use that template that the state is offering.
That's
Okay.
right. I have had contact with him years ago, but I kind of forgotten about him, but he's a good resource.
Yes,
Yeah,
very
I
good.
had to. Yeah, I don't see any communications. I know we're a member of that association, but I don't see any emails. I've seen like one, you know, from months and months ago. But yeah, Alexa, I agree. I'd forgotten about that association as well.
I will forward you that contact info, John. He's like I say, he's a great resource. I've called him a couple times on different things.
Okay, good deal. Yeah, and even obviously, you know, having similar. I don't know if there is one similar to our district, but maybe close to look at, you know, a budget to compare against too. And we if we have that luxury to compact, great. If we don't, then it's easy enough to continue, you know, with those allocations and sub accounts too that are current.
I'm pretty sure you can do like a bottom line allocation for stuff that needs to be allocated. I've never seen anything like the TUID budget.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
can be the standard.
Yeah,
I
I'd like to
think
make it easy. Yeah, it'd be nice to make it easy for everyone to read.
Alexa,
Yeah.
when meeting with you, I believe they also mentioned that they had some resources to help, even though a lot of those line items are impossible to have a formula. Like you can't really predict your cost of diesel, or you can't really predict your R&M, which seems to be the two that vary greatly. I mean, you can pretty much predict your legal fees, but in this particular case, you know, that was just something that came along that we expected. But UAMPS, I think they had mentioned that, you know, they're especially with working with Caterpillar to get, you know, what needs to be done on this particular generator for this particular years old, and then using a formula that, you know, that's been designed that we can help better predict what our fuel usage and R&M would be. I think there's some other resources out there too for the 24 budget and 25 budget moving forward that we can utilize to help try to narrow those down a little better. Eliminate the amendments, in other words.
Yeah, we probably do well to think really hard ahead of time about what we're gonna ask of UAMPS, that we are as prepared as we can be, that we can use their time as efficient as we can, as efficiently. Not sure I get my grammar right here.
Agreed. Yeah, fuel's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough all the time. I was kind of looking through last year versus this year on the bank records, and we're on schedule to have 2 more deliveries in 23 than we did in 24 between April and September. So it's a significant cost for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, this is totally off subject, but look, we were comparing our financials down at the Trading Post and Grill, and even though this year is so much more busier than last year was really stagnant. A lot of the numbers are higher from last year, but it was just simply because the cost of fuel was so much higher at, you know, during the certain parts of the summer, and it makes your revenue figures look so much higher when they're really not. But totally unrelated. But yeah, you can. It's impossible to predict where it's going to go, because it's really a global event that dictates what the price is going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And in our situation with the MQ down, I think we could have probably stayed on a smaller generator for quite a bit longer this year than we did. And there's just a lot of factors in that, and going forward, it's just really important that we are like a hawk on moving those generators around when we can and trying to use the smaller generators. But we'll get there.
Have we used our new generator yet?
No, not yet. We finally fell below a higher demand yesterday, so we're making prep. As long as we can sustain that, we hit a 90 kilowatt demand. So that would be 75% demand on the MQ, which is a 120 max output prime. So now we're in that range, so that's acceptable. So we're
Great.
moving to
And
5.
you're probably good for the next 4 to 5 weeks, John. But you know, it's gonna that week that UAMPS is gonna be here is you probably want to switch back, and
Yeah.
then the route.
Yeah, we're at capacity at the lodge and the RV park for the eclipse weekend, and I know the rally's probably going to be at least 3/4 full.
Yeah,
So
no, and it's just a matter of minutes to do that. You know. It's
yeah, we'll communicate with you about that.
certainly.
Very good. Any more discussion on that?
Not for me.
Nobody?
Good.
Hearing none, but I made a mistake and I jumped a agenda item. I had one highlighted and I jumped right past to number 6. I didn't get public comment in. So I'd like to jump back and put in public comment, give everybody a chance to speak if they wish. Use the raise hand feature, and we will give you 3 minutes each to speak, up to 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think Jim and Terry have their hand raised.
Okay. All right, let them on in.
Mike, I got a question about the water, the
Okay.
drinking water. When was the last time the sewer lines were flushed? Do you know?
I'm not sure right off the top of my head, Ms. Bell.
Okay, well, my main question is, for about the last month or so, it's been smelling really bad. There's a foul smell, like maybe perhaps a sewer smell to our drinking water. And it's in all of the taps in the house, so it's not just one tap. Couple of the neighbors have mentioned the smell too. I don't know if they need to be flushed or what.
I don't think those aren't connected, are they? How could the sewer affect the drinking water?
They can't.
Ours has been fine.
Yeah, this is the first time hearing of it, but they're not connected. I'm not.
John, if I think we might want to consult with Ricky, because he did flush some sewer lines recently.
Yeah, we've been
Like-
doing zones. Yeah, we do that regularly. Yeah, but
But I don't know about the street down through where they live. But
Yeah.
Terry, one of the things that if you have like we have a second bathroom that never gets used, and that water in the drainage to the shower evaporates, and then the
Exactly.
smell comes into the house.
Yeah.
So if you do have
Yeah.
any anything that's not been run in a while, you might want to run some water to fill that.
Yes.
We don't.
Yeah, thanks for that info, but that's not what it is. We use all of our bathrooms pretty regularly. And this is like right in the kitchen sink that's on 100 times a day, you know. I know a couple neighbors have mentioned that their water has smelled as well. So I don't know what's going on, you
yeah, of
know.
course, Terry. We do test monthly for
I understand that, yeah.
bacteria, but they're not connected. I mean, it's physically impossible for wastewater and drinking water to have one effect on the other.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be glad to come taste and smell if somebody lets me know that. Yeah, but I just
You're welcome anytime.
yeah, but literally, there's no way otherwise that comes to my mind.
Yeah.
Terry,
the sewer would be affecting the culinary water source or distribution.
Okay, and John, you mentioned the water testing, and I know that that has to be done monthly. Is that correct? And also, where is it posted?
Correct. We don't post it. We do an annual water quality report, and then of course there's yearly tests too for different arsenic, lead,
Mhm.
pesticides, items like that too. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, as far as if you guys ever want to see it, we just keep them on file here at the office. We don't post them.
You don't post them monthly. Okay.
They all come back. Now, if they do come back and something, doesn't test, then we have to let you guys know immediately, which would be in the form of a boil water notice. If something ever came back where they did test, positive, which we test for two contaminants, coliform, which coliform is common. Everybody has coliform, but it's just the degree of it. Then, of course, the
Right.
bad one that you'd ever want to see is E. coli. But
Mhm.
knock on wood, we haven't tested positive for either of those, to
Yeah.
date.
I remember maybe a year or two ago, been a while, we did test positive for E. coli bacteria. They think probably a rodent got down in there, it
Yeah.
wasn't human feces, but yeah. Just want to stay healthy.
Yeah, no, the minute that happens, especially E. coli, coli is a bad one. Coliform is bad enough, but it's not as bad because we all have it naturally. But E. coli that would be an immediate, boil water notice.
Mhm.
Once we do that, and of course, when I'm in the well houses, one of them daily and the other one a couple times a week, I look for any kind of things like droppings or that to inspect to make sure there's nothing in there that can get down in any of those sources, which they're all capped off too, which is good. But yeah, we do check for that too.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. But yeah, Terry, I can certainly check the water, and we could kind of see if there's anything going on from any other perspective to try to look at it, if it's coming out of the tap that way.
I think that's necessary.
Even if you wanted your next sampling from our water, get a clean catch, you're welcome to do that also.
Yeah, we have to amend we have a sampling plan we have to follow with that, too, that the state has to see where we get it from. But
Mhm.
we certainly, I wouldn't mind doing that, as an additional one to make sure, that type of
Mhm.
deal. So we can certainly discuss that.
Okay, thanks.
And then we can also get Ricky we'll ask him when he comes back to work tomorrow, and he might know either what's up or if he's already flushed it or whatever. But he's a good source for that too.
Good deal.
Very good. Anybody else want to speak? Or have questions? See anybody, John?
Nope, nobody else has raised their hand for any comment from my end there, Mike.
Okay, very good. We'll move on. Thanks for your comment, Terry. Number 9, updates on Jones and DeMille meeting for request for legal fee reimbursement from water rights filings. Mr. Motley, you want to give some details on that?
Yeah, Alexa, I put my name. I didn't know if you were going to be able to join or not, so you're welcome to comment, you too. But Alexa and I did meet with the two guys. What was it, Daniel and Darren? I think Alexa.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't.
go ahead, John. Why don't you report on that?
Yeah, I would like to be happier. From what I took for it, they want to help us and they hope for the best outcome. We did send them some detailed, legal bills that we incurred through, Smith Haverson, because of the delay on their end of items. So what I left with, they're just going to submit that to their insurance and let us know something. But as it relates to the price of diesel and budgets, it's a significant amount of money. It's close to $25,000. that would certainly pay for one of those deliveries that we had this year. So, and again, speaking of budgets, we didn't have that budgeted, nor did we expect that to happen. So yeah, for me, the final outcome, the good outcome is going to be they do take responsibility, number one, and then number two, get us the money back. And Alexa made sure to ask the guys, to leave if we still don't have those rights. There's no final rubber stamp on them. They're still in process. The BLM did withdraw their protest, which is a positive thing, but they're still ongoing. So Alexa made sure to, make sure those guys knew, and I did an email to them with the bills that, there may be additional cost incurred. So, yeah, it would be nice to get that money back that we didn't plan on spending, from there.
I sure hope so. They definitely dropped the ball, and it was ready to be submitted, and they didn't do it, and that's.
Yeah,
I don't know how that goes.
Yeah, it's certainly the moral and ethical business move to make on their end, and they've been partners with TUID for a long time, as they pointed out. So I'm hoping that there's a return on that, and they see it the way we do.
Yes, sir. Good. Any more discussion on that?
Nope, just waiting on those guys. But as soon as we do, we'll certainly update everyone.
Okay. Very good. We'll move on to board reports. Does anybody have anything they would like to report for this meeting?
I don't.
Okay. Thanks, Amy.
No,
Alexa?
nothing for me.
Okay. I don't have anything either, so we'll move on. Next is item 11, financials review on financials provided by Larson. Discussion?
Didn't we just do that?
Well, what we've been doing is I'd hope to get some more updated ones, and we're close enough to the end of Q3 that I'm going to work with Sophie. I think we have somebody new coming aboard to get those produced. So the ones I sent you guys which were within the guidelines. I mean, it's the end of Q2, which was the end of June. So that's that's fairly representative of what we've done. And again, we look good, as far as the income budgeted, we were at it or above it, which is good. But again, the flip side of that is we're above the expenses, driven by the cost of fuel and then the repair and maintenance on the generators too. So that part, was, that's the tough one where the amendments come in there. But yeah, our next regularly scheduled due is going to be the end of September, which will be the end of Q3. Then I'll put more of that to budget, there too. And that's where a simplified budget will come into play too, is looking at these quarterly and not having to go line item by line item and look at those, how they're allocated out, if we can, do that. But we're working on that to get those, out and done. And part of it too, I'm just going to say, is we really want to look to, they're good, but we're getting more into this, especially with Bill.com, with the ability to produce these, quicker and on our own at some point too, with the right version of QuickBooks to go with it. That's the end goal. You take bigger ownership and understand them better by, producing them too.
Okay.
Do we have any sense if we take away things like capital investments in that new generator and revenue from lot sales, if we're kind of balanced in terms of revenue and expenses? Are we running a deficit, like structurally, or where are we with that?
If you look at it from where we're trending on the expense for fuel, versus what we brought in from lot sales, that certainly does help offset that, because we were budgeted at 160,000 for the year for fuel. So that 140, pushes us closer to where we're probably going to end up, which could very well be, 300 to 360. So that does help there. You
No,
know,
I'm actually, if you just take like regular expenses and regular revenue
Yeah.
and not think of the lot sale and maybe
Oh,
not
yeah.
even the 25,000 in legal cost and what we paid for that generator, just like ongoing expenses. What is your sense of where we are? I'm a little worried that we're running a structural deficit.
Yeah, just so that aside, again, just going back to the two areas of concern, which is the fuel and repair and maintenance on the generators, that would make us run at a deficit. If you took everything else out, you know, from that income that you mentioned and eliminate the, you know, the water rights expense. Yeah, those, if you narrowed it down to that, Alexa, and analyzed it that way, the answer is yes, we would be at a deficit to budget, you know, based on, yeah, what we've had to spend on that or those, you know, the power plant, you know, for operations and repair and maintenance. It's a, yeah, it's a huge cost, obviously.
That's kind of scary.
It is, yeah, and I mean, and you go back and look at and as we mentioned, financials as a whole, you know, part of the process of getting acclimated here is getting a better grip on them. You know, every day we understand them better, you know, by going through the history, and you know, you get things in your head that you remember, which is a good thing too. That always seems to be the big area. You know, looking back as I line up these budgets and actual expenses from years past, it's always, you know, come back to haunt. And like Ray said, it's hard to predict. The fuel you can be a little more scientific on, but there's factors that can change, you know, pricing within a day. And then the repair and maintenance too, as you just prepare for the worst, you know, as things get older, those R&M costs should go up. You know, when you look at it from a budgetary standpoint, it's just called preparing for the worst, but we do have to have our budget balance, which makes it even, you know, tougher to do that too. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
those two hurt. Yeah, they affect us and make us run at a deficit.
Can we on after the day after next board meeting and after the UM's meeting, can we spend the afternoon and just go over office procedures and budgets and just so that I get some of the same sense that you're building?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
I think we promised the auditors that the board would spend time becoming familiar with the financials and the record keeping procedure. So
yeah,
that would fulfill that requirement as well.
Yeah, and as we discussed, getting bill.com straightened out has helped a lot. And even going back and putting things in there offline that were paid in the past, but just not recorded, that becomes a valuable tool for accounting and where we're pulling our expenses from. And Connie can do that much easier now, you know, as they're getting in there. Yeah, then those costs become much easier to look up and, you know, drop into something to compare. But we can certainly, you know, do that and look. But yeah, I'm definitely more aware. Give an example. Kat asked me the other day. We had to order a, you know, a breaker for one of the C9 generators, and he's like, "Hey, can you go ahead and get two of these? Keep one on hand." I'm like, "Maybe. What's the price?" And he's like, "That's 5,000." I'm like, "Nah, not $50, 500, maybe, but we can't afford to keep a $5,000 spare part, you know, for what if, you know, especially now. I'd love to be able to, because the question when the other breaker goes out, not if, but at that kind of money, you know, we just have to be conscious and be like, we can't afford that, you know, right now. So, yeah, that makes it, you know, makes it tough.
Maybe this is a good time to thank Connie for all her work, getting that bill.com set up and getting us on the straight and narrow and sending all that stuff to me to approve. And
yeah, that helps a lot. Yeah, it does. Like I said,
Thank you, Alexa.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Connie. Appreciate you. All right, any more discussion on the financial review? Hearing none, operations report.
Yeah, and just to kind of backtrack slightly, yeah, anytime you guys have any questions on cost, and that's the public too. Obviously, we're transparent, reach out. There's nothing, we can get them to you quickly. So, and that's like even for water reports, everything like that, is public, availability. Yeah, we can certainly, show you any of that kind of those items too, just to mention that. But for the GM report, yeah, that's me, obviously. Just a few items I'll go through that I sent you guys. We had ECI on site back on the 5th. They were looking at some items, some of the builders here wanted done, that they have to do as far as some primary running of power and items like that. We did catch up on some things that go back a ways, which are some infrastructure items with TUID, like lines and transformers and items like that. So I was able to touch base with Bo. I thought Troy was coming down, but it was Bo, and Bo's knowledgeable too. I mean, he's been around, and I've worked with him in the past. So we went around different places and looked at some things, and talked about continuing some of that going forward. And Bo said, well, it's tough. You guys in the past would want something done, then you couldn't. Like, well, that's business. It goes back to what we're just talking about with money. If we had a wish list, and probably about $10 million, we could do all that. But, it does take seeing cost and items like that I explained to him. But we have a good relationship with them, and, want to keep that with them because they probably have the best knowledge of our distribution system, of anybody around here. The good, the bad, the ugly, as they say with that. So just touch base with those guys, and that'll be ongoing as we get, prioritize things in the future. Sometimes they prioritize themselves, but we did buy a new printer. So speaking of that, we had to. The old one finally died when it came time for billing. Yeah, no amount of beating and cursing would make it print the bill. So we did get a new printer that was cheaper than that one cost, and should do the job going forward for us. So we were printing and scanning. That was just essential there. So, we've been working just, again, this is as much getting acclimated, working with the rates and updates with customers and making sure that everything's, being charged right, for their sake and ours too, obviously, so that everything's equitable. That's just ongoing. And that gets easier too, as you get more familiar with the accounts and customers and ins and outs of RBS with its quirks and good points too. So that'll be ongoing, and will continue to be that way. Again, we talked about fuel. Part of that too is as generators get older, they consume more fuel. That's a given. So the C9s, at 23,000 hours each, they're going to burn more fuel. So we're definitely looking to swap to that MQ here very shortly to start conserving. And again, the rally will be an exception, or the ring of fire too. Those events will be exceptions to that. So we know what we're dealing with, so we don't overstress that machine.
On the C9s now, John?
Yes. We Dana, so we ran the big C15 for a while, but Dana and I serviced that one yesterday. It was due, but we need to go up there and do the oil and fuel filters and separators. That's where you realize costs. Like yesterday, it was just 19 gallons of oil for the C15. A car, you're talking 8 quarts, 19 gallons for the C15. So that's amazing. What it takes to run those things up there. We talked about the 23 budgets and amendments there, so we don't have to recover that. We also talked about the next point I got on here is the accounting transition, and we let Larson know that we would like to take as much of that away as possible. It doesn't look like like the quarterly reports they were doing for sales tax. That comes down to pulling that out of RBS, which is, shows it right to you immediately. And you put that in TAPS, the taxpayers access point. That should be easy enough. The deposits and investment reports, that should be easy enough. So, they do seem to be disengaging. Sophie mentioned it was tax season. I guess that is. I'm used to it being in March and April, but there's another one, and yeah, we're going to get somebody new for a while, but I think our goal is to eventually again get to the right form of QuickBooks where you have multi-user access, and then really do that ourselves. No offense to them, and I'm sure they've been a valuable asset, but as we talk about deficits and money and what we can do, that's something that we're still on track to transition away from that, do that ourselves. So I think that's a healthy thing to do. The other big great news of the day, speaking of money again, we have a $26,000 bond payment upcoming. So that will bite into our profit and loss. That's the annual bond/loan that's due in October. I think we have until the 31st to pay it without penalty, which is nice, but it is due on October the 1st. So we do have that 30 days to pay it by, but that's one of our bigger ones. And then that ends those bonds. I think they start up again in about February or March. So we do get a few months break and then they start over again. But the 26 is the big one. The rest of them are in the, I think, 8 to 12 range. I think we have 4 altogether, but that's the big one. Just a heads up on that one. And that's it for my GM report.
Any questions or discussion for John?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Are you good, Alexa? Good. Okay. Next item is 13. For everybody's information, our next scheduled meeting will be October 11th, 5:30 p.m. at the Lodge Conference Room. And we'll be in person.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to connecting with everyone in person and hope to meet some members of the public, some people that live in Tickaboo.
Yeah, definitely. Me too.
All right, takes us to item 14. That's adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I motion to adjourn.
I second the motion.
Got a motion and a second. Vote Amy
Bye.
and vote Alexa.
And thank you, Mike, for doing the honors.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Anytime. Happy to help.
Yep. Thank you,
Good luck
guys.
on your travels.
Good deal.
Okay.
Take care.
I'll see you all soon.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.